Hey you guys, what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be working with paired texts. That means that we are going to be using two stories to answer one question. This is a really important skill because this skill is going to cover 5 different standards for you in reading workshop and in writing. So basically it's like receiving 10 grades with one lesson. So this is something we're going to be doing consistently pretty much every week because it is such an important skill for you this year and going into middle school. When working with paired text, it's really important that you understand and know what your question is. So I listed the question that I'm going to be focusing on today on the main page, and I like to call it the big question because it is a big question. Too Much Trash, which is the name of the story because it's in quotes, mentions that many people are working to solve the trash problem. Based on both texts, describe the trash problem that people face today. So as I'm reading the story, I am looking for details, good, strong, solid details that are going to describe the trash problem that people face today. As I find them, I'm going to highlight these. It's really important that you guys play along with me because after this video, you are going to get a set of texts that you're going to have to do the same exact thing with for me today during class. So let's start reading our story, A Ton of Trash. Now remember, as we're reading it, we're looking for good, strong details that are going to describe the trash problem that people face today. A ton of trash. A group of 4th graders witnessed firsthand proof that one person's junk is another person's treasure. Weekly Reader joined the students on their visit to the Garbage Museum in Stratford, Connecticut, where a giant, multicolored dinosaur molded out of garbage towered above them. Trashosaurus was sculpted out of a ton of trash. That is equal to 2,000 pounds of garbage, the amount of trash each person on average, threw away each year in the late 2000s. Philadelphia artist Leo Sewell scoured city dumps and created Trashosaurus out of old junk from false teeth and license plates to toys, tires, and tennis rackets. I think the dinosaur is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, said 4th grader Jockey Acquard from Park City Magnet School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. His classmate Julian Pham, 9, agreed. Instead of throwing away our garbage, we can reuse it. So let's stop here for a second and let's ask ourselves, did we come across any details that we could maybe use in our writing? And I'm thinking we might be able to use this one where it says, that is equal to 2,000 pounds of garbage, the amount of trash each person on average threw away in the late 2000s. I know that happened in the past, but it doesn't seem like it's that long in the past. So this might be a detail that I can use. I'm kind of skeptical of it, but I'm going to highlight it, and I can decide if I want to use it later when I'm going to do my writing. It doesn't hurt, right? I can always eliminate it. So let's continue. And here's a quick picture of the Trashosaurus. It's pretty cool for garbage. And that is exactly the point. The museum shows what happens to our trash, how we can reduce our trash, and what we can do instead of throwing our trash away, said Museum Director Sortoria Montatari. A garbage trail. Americans created more garbage than ever before in the late 2000s. In the early 1900s, most items were packed in containers that could be used again. In the 2000s, most of the food people bought, from cereal to milk, came in boxes and cartons that could be thrown away. I'm going to stop there in that paragraph because I think there's several things that I can highlight. I am going to highlight this, that Americans created more garbage than ever before in the 2000s. Now, when we get to the 1900s, I don't really think that's important because remember, we're trying to uncover the garbage problems that we face today. I know that most of the food that people bought, from cereal to milk, came in boxes and cartons that could be thrown away. That's important. So what happens, let's go back to our story. So what happens to trash after it's tossed out? Some trash ends up in landfills. In a landfill, garbage gets buried between layers of soil. Because many states have been running out of room for landfills, more and more garbage goes to waste to energy, or resource recovery plants. At these plants, garbage is burned and converted into electricity that people use to power their lights, TVs, and video games. So, one thing that we do know from this is that many states have been running out of room for landfills. That's an important detail. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight that as well, because that's a problem. Definitely see that as a problem. The 3 R's. There it is. Garbage is a form of solid waste. The Garbage Museum and its recycling plant, which are run by the Connecticut Resources Recovery Authority, provide visitors with ideas to cut down on solid waste. One way is to reduce or make less trash by throwing away fewer napkins when you eat, for instance. Another way is to reuse or find new uses for old items. Paper bags, for example, can be reused to make book covers or wrap gifts. People also help decrease their solid waste when they recycle. Recycling refers to putting old objects such as glass, plastic bottles, newspapers, and aluminum cans through a special process so that they can be used again. I'm going to pause there for a minute. Have we seen anything in those last 2 paragraphs that tells us about the garbage problem that we're facing today? I didn't hear it. I read a lot of things that we can do to combat that, but I didn't really hear about the problems that we're facing. So I'm going to keep reading, see if I come across any other details that might be useful in answering my question. So let's keep on reading and let's see if we come across any other details to help us answer that question of, based on both texts, describe the trash problem that people face today. Recycling has many benefits. Did you know that recycled plastic soft drink bottles can be made into park benches, carpeting, and backpacks? The more people recycle, the less garbage ends up in landfills or waste to energy plants. Recycling also helps protect natural resources or materials from Earth. To make an aluminum can from scratch, for example, the metal needs to be mined from the ground. That process harms the land and pollutes the air and water. Making aluminum cans from recycled cans uses 95% less energy and protects the Earth's natural resources. In fact, the energy saved each year from recycled cans could light Washington, D.C. for nearly 4 years. I'm going to stop there because I think there's something important there that, we're forgetting. That pollution is not just about throwing garbage away, but we're also harming our environment by just creating some things. So this might be something I could use. So I'm going to highlight that making an aluminum can from scratch, the metal needs to be mined from the ground, and that can pollute the air and the water. That's an issue. So that's something we should look into. Let's continue reading. As part of their visit, the 4th graders got a look at the museum's recycling center. Here they discovered that 1 bale or bundle of recycled newspapers can save 17 trees. The message seems to have struck with 9-year-old Aaron Smith. When you recycle, you save trees and animals' homes. So that's the end of my first story, and I have some pretty good evidence so far. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to continue reading. We're going to go to the next story, and we're going to see how much more evidence we can pull out to help us answer our question. Now remember, our question is that based on both texts, describe the trash problem that people face today. So as we're reading this new story, Too Much Trash, let's see if we can find more details from this story now that will help us answer that question. Too much trash. Less mess, more people are recycling. What do bottles, cans, paper, and tires have in common? They all end up as garbage. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, each American threw away about 4.5 pounds of trash every day. That adds up to more than 1,600 pounds per person in 1 year. Well, I'm going to stop there because that's a no-brainer, right? We have a lot of details in here that will help us with this. In the late 2000s, 2010s, Americans threw away about 4.5 pounds of trash every day. I'm even going to change my colors here because I have another detail that I can use. That adds up to more than 1,600 pounds per person in 1 year. So I really have two details here. I have that the average American throws away about 4.5 pounds of garbage every day, and that adds up to about 1,600 pounds per person in 1 year. Good information to have. Most of our trash ends up in landfills. These are places where people dump trash. The rest of the trash gets recycled. When something is recycled, it is made into something new. Many people have been working to solve the trash problem. One plan is known as zero waste. Its goal is to teach people to make less trash. The plan is being used in schools, companies, national parks, and restaurants. Here are some of the ways that the plan is being put into action. So let's stop there. In those last two paragraphs, have you heard anything that would help us answer the question of how the trash problem, describing the trash problem that we face today? I haven't heard anything, not in these last two paragraphs. So I'm going to continue on to the next page. Recycling trash. Some people sort their trash to see what can be recycled. Those items often include paper, glass, and certain plastics. Some towns also recycle tires and batteries. Taking items to recycling centers reduces the trash in landfills. Buying recycled products. Many products are made from recycled materials. Clothes and bags can be made from recycled plastic bottles. Recycled plastic can also be made into lumber, and lumber is used for building things. So have we heard anything that's talking about the trash problem that we face today? No, I haven't heard anything here either. Making compost piles. Food scraps usually end up in the trash, but some people put the scraps into compost piles. Those are mixtures of plant and food scraps. Worms and bugs help break down the scraps. That turns into soil, which helps plants grow. Okay, I'm going to stop there because that's the end of my story. Now, I didn't have a lot of, facts that stood out to me about the trash problem that people face today from this story. I had some very interesting facts in the beginning, but there are some things that in this last one, or in this last page that I can use, they're more like inferences. I can sit there and I can say that we have a ton of food trash and we are, instead of putting it in landfills, we're making compost piles where it's turning into dirt. I can turn that around. I can make that into a detail by saying that. But what I'm going to do after I've done is I'm going to then create a boxes and bullets, or at least the bullet points from each story, and I'm going to list the evidence that I have found. So what I've done here is I've gone back to both of my stories and I've taken the details that I found that will help me answer my question of describing the trash problem that people face today. And you can see from each story I have 3 details. From too much trash, I have 3 details, 1, 2, and 3. And from the other story, a ton of trash, I have 3 details, 1, 2, and 3. I can then use these details and put them together in an essay to answer this question. Today, you are not going to be writing your essay. Today, you are going to get 2 passages that you are going to have to read. And you're going to have a question that you're going to be answering. Today, your goal is to read both passages and to highlight good, strong details that will help you answer and support that question. That is your goal today. good luck. Make sure you submit all your work into the standard-based grading Dropbox in the reading workshop for this.